call to order then the Anoka County Public Safety Data System Governance Committee meeting for July 14th, 2021 at 2 p.m. I'm real happy that this will be our first quasi in-person meeting in quite a while, and glad to have the group of people who are able to make it here to get the personal relationships again going, which I think are really vital. That said, we do have some folks online. So I know we have a signed roster for the people who are present in person, but I guess we should probably do something for the online folks for the sake of the record. So I'll just call you out by name if you don't mind, and if you could all answer here who are online, we'll go from there. So Jeff Caters.
Present.
Jason Nyhart.
I am here.
Doug Ebeltoft.
Present.
And Doug, do you want to identify who it is that's with you then today?
Yes, currently I have with me Josh Antoine. He's the incoming Director of Public Safety, Police Chief Designee for when I retire on August 16th.
All right, excellent. And it looks like I see Dave Paschal's name. Dave, are you present?
Yes, I am.
All right, good. Does that cover everybody who's online? Okay, then good. I think we have a quorum and that we can move forward. For the first order of business will be approval of the meeting minutes from April 14th, 2021.
I'll move. Second.
So a move by Palumbo, second by Schulte. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Who said that?
That was a delayed yes.
Oh, that was a delayed yes. All right. I gotta get used to this in-person stuff. This is throwing me off a little bit. All right, excellent. So then item number 2 then is subcommittee reports. The first subcommittee report is related to the budget and project status, which is me, which is the overall project. And I don't think there's any status update regarding the final system acceptance or that final check. Is that correct, George?
That is correct. We're not even close. We're probably still a year out from that.
The final acceptance for again, Mr. Chair.
For the whole project, yes. Yes, sir. We're waiting on 3 items. It's in the update if you're interested. It's there. We're waiting on 3 items to get complete. Central Square's dragging their feet on some of that.
All right, and then I would just say for the record, that's not necessarily a bad thing for us because we owe them money. And so that's fine by me. So second, then the next item, then we'll move on to the financial status report, which is the category now we'll discuss the budget, the upcoming budget. At our last meeting, Corey Camp was present. He was unable to make it today, but Corey was there to make a presentation related to the budget proposal. And I know the 2022 budget was sent out and is part of the materials that all of you should have. But that said, I'll hit some of the highlights or just reiterate the highlights because I don't think, in fact, I know nothing has changed from the last time that Corey discussed it at our previous meeting. Again, the broad overview is he provided this detailed report, which will be included and forward to the full JLEC committee. The goal is for the ongoing expenses is we're going to maintain a 20% reserve for our expenditures. The other highlights that I would like to mention is that there's an increase in administrative support for 2022 of 4.73%, which is due to salary and benefit increases. And of course, some of the staff that work for George or administrative staff, not only did they get a cost of living increase, but some of them get step increases too. So that accounts for the overage or the number over 3%, which I think is probably, well, I know is the Coon Rapids contract increase for 2021. So anyway, you get the idea of where we're at with these costs. There's a decrease in the system maintenance of 2.27%, which he highlights through a better maintenance contract negotiated by George through Central Square. And then he also highlights the $50,000 account for equipment, software, and services for system adjustments that occurred during 2022. So we have a little bit of flexibility to address things as they come. And then Corey highlighted that we're assuming a roughly 3% increase in expenditure forecast from 2023 through 2025. And then he moved on to discuss what was needed in terms of our overall dues. The law group, he said, will show an increase of 1.59% in our dues. And then just keeping in mind for the law group is that those figures for city by city are determined by the calls for service or percentages of calls for service as they're spread out among the agencies, and that number does fluctuate a little. Over the course of the years, there's a 5-year look back window, and that 5-year look back will show, for instance, like a Blaine city that's gaining in population as having perhaps an increase, those sorts of things. So that explains some of the small differences. Let's see, overall, the proposed dues remain lower than 2017 actual by 59,000. Our current forecast assumes that 2023 through 2025 will see an increase needed in dues on an average of 4.5% annually, which is down from our original forecast 2 years ago that assumed 7.5%.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for clarification, I think I understand all this fine, but the reduction from 7.5% to the now estimated 4.5% is because we're going to be using reserves that are currently at 53% and will be projected to be at 20%.
That's my understanding, is that yes, we've been maintaining a reserve balance that's above the 20% recommended by our finance director, and we're trying to whittle that balance down so it's not too much over time. So that's my understanding of his explanation. Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes. Let's see. And actually, accordingly, his next sentence refers to our reserve balance at 53% for 2020. And then we expect the reserve balance to drop to 19.1 by 2025. So the good news is Corey is on top of those figures. And it's nice that we have, for the sake of the group or the good of the group, is that essentially Anoka County Finance works as a sort of a third-party monitor of our financial situation. And it's nice to have that outside voice to pay attention to our numbers and make sure that we stay on target with what we're doing and the important work that needs to get done. That said, it's worth noting that the public safety levy that had been authorized by the Minnesota legislature expires in 2023. And at some point, we need to have a detailed discussion, probably this summer, I would suggest, regarding renewing that levy, whether or not it's in the interests of this group overall and the interest of Anoka County in particular, since Anoka County plays such a oversized role, I would say, between Central Com, Fire, and police, as to whether or not having that levy continue makes sense. I would imagine off the top of my head it would make sense, but I don't know the big capital projects and their ongoing discussions here with our PSDS system. Because I think our anticipation is that we don't need to abandon the system we have for a new system. It's the existing system will continue to morph over time. Is that a fair statement to say, Joseph?
So we will replace, I think we're scheduled to replace equipment every 3 years according to the levies. We have one coming up probably next year. We're replacing our equipment just to keep our equipment top notch, so there's rarity of it going down. And that's a pretty constant thing you'll see throughout the industry. Other than that, I guess I don't know what other projects we'd have out of the levy itself.
Yeah, and I'm just highlighting the fact that when we purchased this system back in 2013 or roughly, it was a whole software hardware package which had a big dollar amount. And we're not talking about abandoning our software. It's just the software we have just will continue to evolve over time.
That's what, yeah, as long as we keep, I see what you're saying, sorry, Chief. As long as we keep upgrading and staying current with all the rules and regulations that govern us, it should just morph, just keep being up to date. So that's our plan.
Okay, excellent. And then Commissioner Schulte.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I'm not mistaken, the Joint Law Enforcement Council as a whole voted to continue that levy, to work towards continuing that levy.
Yes.
So that has been an official stance, an official vote taken at joint law. So we will need to, 23 is fast approaching.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like it, but it is. And it will require a year of pre-work, working with city councils and others to make sure that they're willing to support us through this process. Because I too know that there's a lot of big expenses coming forward for joint law purposes,
Mhm.
whether that's continued radio operations, towers, whatever it ends up being. I just know there's lots more to come. This wasn't a one-time done deal. So as long as we all believe that law enforcement and Anoka County joint law enforcement is important, we should probably continue that levy and start working towards that end.
And actually, if I know, County Attorney Palumbo, you took this show on the road back in 2013. And I guess process-wise, maybe it's worth having the discussion about what the process should be. Is it, from that time, it was going to every city council to sign on? Was it a joint powers agreement, or how did that, or a joint recommendation for a lobbyist, or how did that work as a practical matter to get it renewed?
I thought it was a JPA. Well, actually, I don't know if you were on the city council, Mr. Chair, Council, were you on the city council at that time? Yeah, I think I made a presentation, and it seemed like a joint powers agreement, but really what it was the county board at that time wanted to make sure that before they asked the legislature to impose a tax, that the cities were not going to be against it. So I went to all 21 municipalities and spoke at their council meetings to let them know what the project was, what we estimated the costs, et cetera, and were they in agreement, and everyone was for it. We never really, I don't think, executed a formal joint powers, because technically it was the county board going in and asking the legislator for the authority. And at that time, legislature made it as a condition as part of the statute that the Joint Law Enforcement Council has to agree to the disbursement of the monies. So you recall that. So the Joint Law Enforcement Council has a role in that, but it was the county board, obviously, that went in that imposes the levy, the public safety levy, which a few years ago was actually separated out of the county budget and is a separate item on your tax statement, if you do see it.
I saw it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it wasn't actually a new tax. It was a continuation of the 800 megahertz radio tax, but we decided, extend this for us because we have a new use. We need $8 million for this PSDS, and the legislature extended it and set the sunset for 2023. So that will be our goal, is to approach the legislature and work for another extension. They'll never grant us this in perpetuity, I wouldn't think. And they're always looking out to make sure we don't overtax our citizens on certain items. Right now, we all know that public safety, law enforcement, whatever it is being scrutinized heavily. So this may not be an easy lift. This may be a tough lift to get them to extend this, but it's important and we should look towards it.
So, all right, so like, what would you, what would be the next steps? Is that, should we go to have the JLEC members go to each council, or is it, should we look for
I can, Mr. Chair, it's just, at this point, it has to be the county board's decision whether to go to the legislature. So they first have to make that decision. Now, what process the county board wants to go through to get input from their cities will be determined by the county board. And you're right, Mr. Chair, that probably will, it may be going to each of the city councils once again, but that's completely up to the board, because the board may choose not to go to the legislature at this point.
Okay.
I will, Mr. Chair, I will approach our intergovernmental committee chair and the county administrator and see if I can get that on the agenda soon. So our IG committee can make a decision whether they want to bring that in front of the entire board. And I'm sure they will. And the whole board will make a decision how we move forward. But I will be pushing to move forward with this, but I'm not sure how the rest of the board will feel.
All right, so for the sake of the meeting minutes, then it'll be that you'll bring it to the board, and when the county board is ready or willing to make a statement regarding a desire to pursue that, then that might be something that we would go back to the city councils within the entirety of JLEC or the Fire Protection Council. We should do that.
Yeah, and
In that order.
Mr. Chair, as far as going back to city councils, I'm not sure it's necessary because we never had a sunset date. When we went to those city councils, we said, hey, we'd like to put this in place for public safety within the county. What do you think? All the city councils said, okay. We didn't say, oh, by the way, it's going to expire someday. So they didn't know it was going to. So the fact that it is expiring, we may just assume, well, the city councils are fine with this. We're going to go ahead and lobby for it at the legislature. See if we can extend it and not talk to the cities. But there may be some board members that feel, hey, some city councils have turned over, we need to refreshen this idea.
I would lean towards that with, not saying that you need to make a parade through the county, but simply through the city administrators, provide some type of a update and a justification. So what are those upcoming projects I'm not necessarily familiar with? So that would be information that if we're in support of something and we want to continue to support you, it's maybe being informed and staying in tune.
And Mr. Chair, if you look at page 9 of your handout on there, it describes what projects. And the last one's called the public safety cash flow right on the back page of the budget thing. You will see the expenditures in 2022, there's 2.3 million for an upgrade of the 800 megahertz radio equipment. So that's going to be a pretty big ticket item. The total expenditures will be $3.888 million out of that. And of course, part of that is a repayment to the county for the $8 million it lent to the project. So additional taxes. So I guess we will get the 800 megahertz equipment based on what we've all, it's already levied according to law, but going forward, as you know, Scott Schulte has stated, into the future after 2023, we don't know what our needs are. We can project what our needs are, and it will be up to certainly the county board and local governments to help us how we're going to pay for those needs.
Right. Excellent. Actually, just helps just provide an overview of the process, what we need to do to make sure that this happens. And then once the county board weighs in on it, then it'll give us a lot of direction as a group here and as the JLEC, how to help make that happen. So keep us in the loop, I guess. All right.
It's trustworthy, I think.
Yeah, excellent. Does anybody have any questions then regarding the financial status of the JLEC or the budget proposal for 2022? All right, I'm not hearing any, so then we'll move on to data standards, Chief Caters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Data Standards Committee will meet next Monday, the 19th at Ramsey PD. And we have a couple of items on our agenda. One item is to make sure that all of our systems, our CAD, which is dispatch, our law, and our fire FDM, all are using the same address standards. And we're going to work towards what GIS uses. So that's one of the discussion points we have. We all have different needs within our own systems, but it's also imperative that we're able to move data throughout the system as easy and as efficiently as possible. So come to some standardization on that. Number 2 on our agenda is the master business records and looking at a policy on when to create a new record versus using the existing record. So those are a couple items up that we have for discussion. If this group will remember, we did not meet the previous cycle before the JLEC. We didn't have any items to discuss. So these are a couple of the items that we have, and I'll bring a report to the full joint law after we have our meeting.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Chief. All right, item number 3, contract services and change orders, CAD to CAD. George.
Really, what we need from, eventually, I guess the JLEC is an agreement. Let me tell you the back end here. SBM Fire had a structure fire, I don't know, probably now 2 months ago, where it took several additional minutes to get through the process from transferring it from Ramsey County into Anoka County and then up to the SBM Fire. Structure was lost, and there's quite a bit of back and forth going on why. Chief Smith from SBM contacted me asking what could be done, and we've always said this, we can do an interface between, just like we've done with Alina, we've done with a couple other agencies, we can do a interface with Ramsey County. Valerie and I discussed the idea, and we came up with a plan not only to approach Ramsey County, but also Ramsey County on behalf of SBM or Spring Lake Park, Blaine, and Mounds View Fire, but along with Fridley too, because they have an agreement to back up New Brighton with their fires. And that's often a point of discussion. So Ramsey will help us fix that. We're also going to approach Hennepin County and for Anoka Champlin fire. So it's Champlin, of course, is in Hennepin County. And then we got Washington County and Forest Lake fire covers on Columbus. So we're approaching all three of these counties trying to get that interface going. Ramsey County is the only one that's bid so far. And we've started the process. So the cost is $14,040 on our side, which is below my $25,000. I can pay it out of what I have in my budget. Funds to be paid out of what's remaining in the Central Square support maintenance budget that I have. I remember I reworked the budget with them, or reworked the contract with them. So now I have about $60,000, $70,000 sitting in that fund that's not going to be used. So I'm going to use that to pay for this interface. And then we've already contacted the county attorney's office and had Catherine Timmis signed or identified as the attorney to write up the memorandum of agreement with Ramsey County, and that's in the works as far as I know. And so the only thing we're going to need eventually, Tony, is an agreement from the joint law that you have the power to sign that contract when it comes about. So that'll be an item for the JLEC.
All right. Thank you, George. Tony, I guess I'll ask you, does that feel like we need a recommendation from this group then that goes to the JLEC regarding agreements or no?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would suggest, I don't know that we need a formal recommendation because we don't have the MOU in front of us, but I would probably include it as part of your report
Okay.
that will be coming. And that the JLEC is on board with what George is requesting. And we can do a formal motion if you'd like. I just think an informational item at this point because we have nothing in front of them now.
Okay.
Now, what I will probably ask as chair is for authority, as George has suggested, enter into that subject to ratification on our October meeting.
All right, that obviously makes sense to me. And I'm assuming this is a topic of conversation for the Fire Protection Council then?
Yes, absolutely. And then I'll bring it up next week when we're in front of them.
All right. All right. Well, that'll make sense. All right. Sounds good. So on to, if there are no questions on item number 4, the PSDS update. And George, again, that's you.
You just get jail.
Yeah, jail RMS.
Oh, I guess I must have a different copy of the agenda. All right. Oops, I printed up the wrong one. All right. So the item number 4 in this version, the latest version of the governance committee, I apologize, I printed up a prior version, is jail RMS, item number 4.
So we added this as a last minute entry to the agenda. It's more or less a point of discussion, or it's actually a request to become a part of that project team. What we understand is the jail is looking to replace the PCI jail RMS system that they currently have. As you know, our law RMS interfaces with that system, and it's a primary means of getting the people in the back of the squads through the process a little quicker, gets the data, gets a set of data in the system so they don't have to hand enter it when they get it there. The scope of the project, in my opinion, for any software or website is where what you're getting out of the system is considered what I think what your target of your scope should be, but also how you're getting your data in the system. And we're hearing through the grapevine that the jail RMS they're shopping for that, but we'd like to be a part of that project team so we can help. We can tell what we can provide from the RMS system that can fit into that jail RMS when it does come about. We want it to be a forethought instead of an afterthought like it was the last time when we brought these two systems together. So we're just hoping that we can get some support from the governance and the JLEC that, that at least a suggestion to the people running the jail that we can become a part of that project team.
All right. George, actually, if you don't mind, Dave Paschal, if you're there, did you want to weigh in on that at all, on the current system and what you're looking for?
Sure. We are looking at a jail, civil, and warrants package. But what we're in the process of doing right now with COVID, it put us a little bit behind. we're hiring a company that will help us write the RFP. We're going through the vetting process with them. It'll be up before the county board by the end of this month. Once that's approved, this company will come in, help us start developing all the necessary data that should go into the RFP for the new jail, civil, and warrants system. As a part of that, we have built in that they'll talk to all of our business partners as appropriate, and that would include people from the central records system to make sure that we interface as much as possible. So we will work closely with George and his folks as soon as we get this company on board.
Perfect. That's all really on point of discussion. We just wanted to bring it up. So thanks. Thanks so much for allowing us to do it.
Yes.
Dave, can you tell me, are you working closely with Anoka County IT as well?
Yes, IT is an integral part of this too. We're just hiring an outside company because, quite frankly, Anoka County IT does not feel up to helping us draft the RFP. And even though we have a good set of requirements, we want an outside company to take a fresh look at it and make sure we're including all the appropriate up-to-date technology requirements in there. So this company's worked closely with Hennepin and Ramsey before on jail warrants and civil projects. So I think they'll do a good job for us.
Hey, Dave Bradwise, one more time, is, I'm assuming you would then expect to see the jail booking process speeded up for law enforcement agencies. Is that the expectation?
Between this new system and the new jail that they're going to be building, yes, we are definitely going to do our best to speed things up.
All right, and I guess I just want to highlight that part of the desire for this is to improve efficiency between the law enforcement agencies and the jail, correct?
Most definitely.
And if I can, Mr. Chair, also reduce the possibility of mistake in data entry, correct?
Absolutely.
Correct.
Correct, Dave?
Yeah,
Yes, correct.
The old process, paper that they turned in and it all had to be hand jammed in. Now our system with the way we have it now is it automatically shows up. If everything's working, it automatically shows up in your system.
All right, and I guess and now in the process of the discussion, I sort of lost track. So what are you going to ask of the JLEC to do what to be?
I just wanted to bring it up as a point of discussion that we really want to be a part of that. So it's something that.
So that the JLEC is included in the conversation.
That the PSDS management team is part of that, part of the discussions there, so we can make sure that we're thinking about the interface and trying to get the maximum data in there that possible.
And Dave, I'm assuming you're in support of that position.
Yes, I am.
Sounds good. All right, good. Unless there's any other questions regarding jail RMS, then we'll move on to PSDS.
So PSDS update is part of the attachments for today's meeting. Just reading through it, you'll see that we've completed quite a few projects over the last 3 months. A legacy Laserfish server was hosted by Logis prior to completing that project to move it into our environment. That move is going to save us a total of about $19,000 a year, which has been a goal, trying to get that done for the last 2 years. So we finally got that one done. You'll see our law RMS was just upgraded today. In fact, with the new user interface, it is the fastest upgrade we've had to date for that part of the system. Much better than the 32-hour upgrade we had a couple years back. Very successful project, and that's being led by Bretta, of course, and who has earned a spot on Central Square's early adopter program. She's literally changing the way they do business over there at Central Square as far as law enforcement records management system there. We have 3 interns right now working with us to clean up duplicate data, kind of referring to what Chief Caters was talking about. We do have a major problem in our system with the way data gets duplicated. We cleaned up all the business records back in the last set of interns we had working for us in January. And what didn't take more than a couple of days before that started going to heck right away. So it's something that we have to really look at. We have some ideas on reporting, identifying a duplicate when it gets entered in the system and contacting the agency automatically and saying, hey, there's a duplicate that's been added. Some things like that, but we really need to start where the data is being entered, and that's at the CAD side of things. We completed a mass notification project in the browser. Allows us to spread the word very quickly for all browser users on anything that's going on with the system. So if the CAD goes down, instead of getting a bunch of calls, everybody calling it all in once saying, hey, the CAD's down, we can put out, hey, we know CAD's down, we're working it, we'll let you know when it's back up. So that's been a project I've been working on for about 6 months now. Really came out nice. Although I did notice it's down, but today. But Jason continues his efforts. What we've discovered is very outdated fire RMS system. You know, we've struggled to get that system upgraded. It's been 2 years to get an upgrade, our last upgrade done. And so we're starting to work with the Fire Protection Council, see if there's another path they want us to follow as far as maybe purchasing or looking at a new RMS for them. Or stay in the path with Central Square. We're part of the early adopter team there also. That's a very long path, and we think we've gotten our last upgrade out of this system. So they're very, very much focused on building a new RMS system for fire. Logis and I are in the early stages of upgrading servers with the 2012 operating systems. We have about 60 some servers that serve our PSDS, and a lot of them have an operating system, Microsoft Server 2012, and that's going to sunset eventually here in the next couple of years. We're starting to get a head start on that to get everything up to 2019, Microsoft Server 2019. And this will fix some of the issues we have with Nessus scans Logis uses to make sure that we're in compliance. I know it's technical, but the idea is basically what you need to know is we're working on updating everything for a better, stronger system. So that should take us, we hope to have that done by the end of the 2021 year here. We have been testing the mobile real-time maps, or RT100 maps. Very excited about what we're seeing with the RT100. I can finally say Central Square got it right with this. Very, very, 100 times better than what's out in the fire apparatuses and squad cars right now, 100 times better. And you might remember we bought a server, we had to buy a server a couple years back, but this is the end product of that server. So we finally, after 2 years, we got that project going. But now we have to wait. We have to wait till we can get our CAD system upgraded to the next version, and then we can go live with it. So it'll be a big upgrade next time we go. We are looking at options to maybe go ahead of the upgrade to CAD, because we're having a hard time getting CAD upgraded right now. System reporting is still a priority for us. Always, we're working, pretty much all three of us are working on different requirements from the different agencies. So that'll always be an ongoing thing, but just want to make sure you guys are aware of it. That's my upgrade, or that's my update for this meeting.
All right. There are no questions for George.
Hey, Mr. Chair, if I can, just when you say it's 100 times better, what way is it that much better, George?
Well, if you were a fire apparatus responding from Fridley Fire to an Andover, and you don't know where you're going, you're going to be very reliant on the map that's in the CAD system. You get up over 50 miles per hour right now with our current system, you're out driving the maps that CAD is, or the mobile system is collected. It takes that, it's that between the GPS and figuring out what it needs to show and then showing it, that it's really slow. And what this new system, we got up to, in a squad car with a police officer, we were up 90. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it was a hell of a lot better. Excuse the language, it was a hell of a lot better. So we're excited that the officers and the firemen will have what they need to get to where they need to be. So
Thank you.
it's definitely an improvement.
Mr. Chair, so Central Square decided to use Google products or something?
They're using updated, more up-to-date software than what they were using previously and incorporated in their system. Basically, it's just what Central Square, all this product is it's, you know, most of the software is 20-some years old, and they just keep recreating a new envelope to put the old software up through. Well, the mobile is going through a massive upgrade, slow, but sure, this is one of those things that are being improved. So,
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll say it's refreshing to hear they did something right, because they've done 10,000 things for us, and none have been right yet. So it's good they got one.
if we're a matter of record, I tell you, we wouldn't be as successful as we are with this project without Code 4 Group, who's one of our vendors that helps us with the system. They had helped Ramsey County implement theirs, noticed a couple things and made some adjustments and got theirs up and running. And when we told him what we saw when we did our test, he came over and did the same thing for us and got it up. We tested it last Friday, and it was beautiful. It was nice. It was very cool. So,
I mean, hey, Mr. Chair, if I can follow up, if I recall, FDM was actually a pretty reasonable product when we first got it.
oh,
Reasonably priced, and it was gonna function pretty good. Then Central Square bought them, and it quickly went down the tank, and now we can't make it work at all, and, I mean, I'll go on and on if you want me to, but I'm not
No,
going to.
You're absolutely right. In my last meeting with our customer success person, I expressed our disappointment with how they've managed this product so far. Jason and I are very, that's what caused us we had a meeting with all the chiefs. We invited all the chiefs. We had 5 chiefs show up. And we showed them, this is why we're struggling. You've got your last upgrade out of this product. It'll be a completely different product in 3 years, one way or the other. So it's time to start making some decisions on where you want. So we'll see how that comes. We're still working on to see if that's something they want us to follow or not.
Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, next is on to Emergency Communications Center. It says see written reports.
Should have been, Mr. Chair, should be attached to the end of your packet.
I did not keep that sheet of paper, but for the sake of the record, I'll just, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go through this then for the sake of the meeting. Val writes, we have all staff trained in TCPR, which is required for the entire state by July 1st. This trains dispatchers to recognize the signs of possible cardiac arrest. Central Comp currently has 8 open dispatcher spots with 1 vacancy for radio tech. We started 4 dispatchers on Monday, must mean earlier this week, and have another group of 5 starting in September. We're gonna leave them with 3 openings with the possibility of 1 more due to retirement. Item 3, they're working on some bugs with Central Square. Sounds like a refrain that I've heard a few hundred times. To implement our APCO guide cards, this will provide consistency for our call takers and ensure nothing is missed, especially one of those rare unique calls. That's good to hear. The public safety bill that was recently passed requires dispatch centers to provide a referral for any mental health calls we receive. We just started working on guidelines to accomplish this. And our item 5 is another part of the public safety bill requires implementation of a 911 work group. Purpose of this group is to look at mental health issues of 911 dispatchers and staff, possible certification of 911 dispatchers, and ongoing training. The group must be appointed by August 1st. So Val is working on meeting that requirement. So that's her report. And I would certainly, as far as I know, she'll be attending the JLEC meeting and will probably say these things in person. So that's good. All right, moving on. Item 7 is Fire Protection Council. I guess at this point, I'll note that Dennis Jones, the Andover Fire Chief, jumped into the meeting. So Dennis, if you're there, if there's something you want to weigh in on the Fire Protection Council, this would be an opportunity.
Yeah, sorry for being late. We just took delivery of fire trucks, so we've been busy with that today. As far as the joint Fire Protection Council is concerned, I know we've been talking about some dispatching issues that we're trying to address. And again, hats off to Val and her group for being as understaffed as they are. They are doing they are making strides. Like anything else, we have a few shortcomings that we've been working on. Been very active in developing our box alarm system. Again, I'm not sure to what extent you guys are aware of it, but basically helps us generate auto aid without it's predetermined auto aid for resources based on location and incident type. So we've been busy doing that. Next week we have a meeting. I believe it's on the 22nd. So I'm not sure who all shows up for that, but I'm really not one to be too current on it, as I was gone or absent from our last meeting. But like I said, there's been a lot of progress in our box alarm system. Again, I think the folks at the comm center are doing really well, considering the fact they've been understaffed for since I arrived, since I returned to Anoka County. So, I don't know, does anybody have any questions?
All right, well, actually, I'll ask you one. So is has the Fire Protection Council then adopted a budget then, or where are they at with the budgeting process for 2022?
I know we had talked about it But again, I believe I missed that meeting. So, like I said, I'm not too current on it, but again, Chief Piper would probably be the person to talk on that topic.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Chair, Jason might know.
Jason, are you there? You can comment on the budget?
I'm pretty sure it was. I was just going to look at my email here and see if I could find the meeting minutes, but I am pretty sure that they did adopt a budget because if I remember right, it used to have to be approved in the January meeting and we recently moved it so that it can be approved in the April meeting, and I believe it was. Let me see the minutes here. Give me 1 minute here. You caught me a little off guard there.
Oh, no, that's right. Well, I tell you what, Jason, if you want to take a couple of minutes to look at it, I won't put you on the hot seat. Then we'll move on to the next agenda item and then I'll circle back for a comment on that if you do find it.
Nope, I did just find it there, Chief. It was the 2022 proposed budget was approved.
All right, excellent. All right, that's good to know. All right, thank you very much. So then on to item 8, replacement of Chief Ebeltoft, who already mentioned in the intros, he's planning to retire. So I guess, I don't know, Tony, if you'd comment on how that appointment gets made or.
So, well, Mr. Chair, as Chair of the Joint Law Enforcement Council, it's in the bylaws that I appoint committee members, and then the committee members elect the chair. And at this point, I've had discussions with Chief Ebeltoft, and what I try and do certainly on this particular committee is try and get a balance between obviously county, city, larger departments, smaller departments, so everybody is represented. And so as Chief Ebeltoft is the chief of Spring Lake Park, and Josh Antoine is going to succeed him, I will appoint Josh to replace Chief Ebeltoft on this committee, and that will be subject to approval at the next Joint Law Enforcement Council meeting. So that's just, I guess, an FYI for this group, but it is my belief that that will continue the, I guess, the broad representation that we have on this committee.
Right, and he consented to be.
I don't know if he was voluntold. Do you want to tell me that, Chief? How does that work?
Chief Antoine, do you want to say, are you doing this willingly or were you coerced?
Yes, I'm doing it willingly. So I'm looking forward to working with each of you.
All right, great. It's always good. Actually, it's always exciting to get some new energy and new blood into a group like this. So we appreciate your willingness to do that for sure. And Doug, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for all your years you're longer than me doing this, and by being a part of this group from, it was just an idea, the PSDS was just an idea till now. I thank you a lot for all that you've done. And obviously it's not time to wish you happy trails quite yet, but it'll be the last governance committee meeting and we'll see you, I'm sure, at the next JLEC and whatever soiree you choose to have when it's time to hit the trails, right? Any parting shots or comments?
No, I've enjoyed it, every minute of this. It's been, there's been some trials, some tribulations, but it's a project that's very much worth going through those things. And we keep making progress, and that's the goal, is to keep improving, to bring the best service possible to not only the city of Spring Lake Park, but all the residents of Anoka County. So I just like to thank everybody for their allowing me to do this, and I hope I did a good job.
All right, well, I'm sure you did. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. All right, so upcoming meetings, or actually, it isn't really like an open mic part of this, but actually, George, one thing that came to my mind over the last couple of weeks, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but maybe some discussion in future, is talking about our overall system security and ransomware and our vulnerabilities and so on. Is that I'm wondering if that would be a topic that you'd be willing to address either at the next one of these meetings or the JLEC meeting that might be upcoming, just what we're doing as a county to secure our system and how confident you feel that we're doing the right things. I mean, obviously we're not bulletproof when no pun intended. But
We're not bulletproof, but we're fully covered. Logis takes care of, as part of their contract with us, to be our vendor running our network services. They're on top of it. Often they'll let us know what's going on in all the systems they have they'll let us know what's going on and what to look out for, so we can start looking for it in our systems. We've bought the best antivirus software for the machines that we have, that we own. And they continuously keep us on track, make sure we're upgrading, make sure we're updating, and they'll provide a report to us on a weekly basis if there's any intrusions or anything that's coming through the firewall. So it's we have nothing to worry about at this point. We're very well protected with Logis.
Right, and would you mind then making that same
Absolutely.
comment at the next JLEC meeting? then?
Anything you want.
All right. I'd appreciate, well, it's just, it's just one of those things for, obviously it's timely, we don't want to pay a ransom for anything, so.
Absolutely. No, well, and we wouldn't pay it. We'd just build another system.
Sounds good, sounds good. All right, so, upcoming meetings, the JLEC then is 2 weeks, July 28th, for Lee's Public Safety Department, and, I'm gonna declare this meeting a success, that we had an in-person meeting, and I know the plan, I think, is to have an in-person meeting with a virtual option, I would suspect, just like this. So 2 p.m. at Fridley, and then our next governance committee meeting will be, actually, I didn't even look at the calendar. Do we have a,
October 27th is the next JLAC, so 2 weeks prior would be October 13th.
so we'd be shooting for October 13th and at 2 p.m. then. Ideally, that would be in person, but of course, as always, we'll be paying attention to whether or not there's some sort of spike, and if COVID puts us back in lockdown again, we'll address that at the time, but our expectation is in person, and then it would seem as too much of an ask to have a virtual option still available, do you think? Is that beyond question?
No, I think it's,
All right, so it sounds like the plan will be in-person meeting with a virtual option, and we should be good. So are there any other contributions for the good of the order for this particular meeting? All right, good. With that, then I guess I'll declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
Good job, Chief.
This is